All right. This video will be a little bit of a sharing of a story that I had that involves the WBC. It involves Canelo Alvarez. It involves Tyson Fury and a bar that I was in talking to on a rare occasion, running into somebody that was I would say a hardcore boxing fan, but not somebody that is like into it at the level, at the level of consistency that I am, or other people that might, the community that we listen to and talk about boxing here. But somebody that is a fan of boxing and has two eyes and knew a little more than I thought he did. I want to share that story with you. I think it'll be worth you listening to. And as I think it's important to the future of boxing. When a guy like that will say those things. And with that, it'll be that's the subject of this video. All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. All right, so little story for you. Stick with me through it. I'll get to the moral of the story shortly, but I think it's going to be worth you listening to. I was in a bar the day after the Tyson Fury fight, the Sunday after the Tyson Fury fight. My father likes these chicken wings from this bar. My son, so they were like, "Can you go get some chicken wings?" So I go get some chicken wings at the bar. I sit down at the bar. I like to sip a little scotch, so I order a scotch while they put the food there. I had a bunch of people at the house. I typically don't like to be around a lot of people, so I didn't want to stay in there during that point in time. Anyway, so I'm sitting at the bar. People look at me. The lady says, "How you doing? How was your weekend?" I say, "Yeah, it was good. My fighter lost. That kind of sucks." He said, "Oh, you talking about the heavyweight fight?" "Yeah, something didn't really look right about that." It's like, no, he just didn't look right. And there's another guy, because I'm in Texas. There was a guy, I do believe he's a Mexican. He called himself Hispanic. He said, "Look, we're all the same group of people." He explained that to me. I said, "Yeah, but I'm asking, are you Mexican? Like, are you from Mexico?" It's like, "Yeah, we're from Mexico." So he's Mexico, and he said, he's like, "The one thing that bothers me about Canelo is," he said, "that, man, Canelo's a really good fighter. I want to see him fight the Charlos. Because Charlo's a really tough fighter. Both those Charlos are really tough fighters. I want to see him fight Charlo, but he moved all the way up to 100. He moved up to, he said, to 168 pounds. Now, obviously, we know it's 175 pounds, but he says, moved up to 168 pounds, and he's just looking so strong. And it's like, what's going on with him? I think he should just be at 154, 160, fight Charlo. That's the fight I want to see, right?" So I was like, "No, man, it's 175. He's at 175 pounds. He said, "Yeah, man, it's just something's not right about that, man." He's like, "You shouldn't be able to go up that big and do that." And then the lady who was the bartender was like, and this is a conversation going on between them. He's like, "Yeah, I noticed." It's like, "Nah, he looked really funny because I saw the first fight and, he was getting punched. And, he didn't take punches like that. He just didn't look, it's like that just something didn't look right." And she said that she's a big MMA fan. And she was like, a lot of the MMA and like a combat, because she had like tattoos and stuff all up her arm. And she was like, "No," and obviously knew a lot about combat sports, but not necessarily boxing. But she was like, "No, it's just, it doesn't look right. It doesn't look right. It just looks like, he changed too much." I was like, "Yeah, it is what it is." And like, "Yeah, it is what it is." And then I said, and I was like, "Well, maybe what could happen," like, I explained this is what happened. The guy said that Canelo Alvarez had popped dirty for performance-enhancing drugs. He's like, "Yeah, I like Canelo, but he tested positive." That's what put the conversation onto that. He's like, "But he tested positive for and it's like, "Yeah, man, but now you're up at this weight class." And then the other lady was like, "Yeah, that's kind of the shady thing about, a lot of the combat sports." So I told the guy, I was like, "Well, Canelo Alvarez now can test, what he did then is no longer performance, and it's no longer cheating, because the WBC raised the Combuterol levels, the acceptable level of Combuterol, according to their excuse was, or their explanation was, I think that is the case of an excuse. But their explanation was that WADA system had changed and they were trying to keep up with WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency. And there's a lot of meat that was tainted in Mexico, right? There's the Combuterol in Mexico, and people are taking this meat, the whole meat thing. And the dude looked at me, was like, man, yeah, but no. He was like, yeah, but no. You don't have to eat that stuff. There's ways. Like, no, I'm not buying that. He's like, man, that's BS. And this is a Mexican dude talking about Canelo Alvarez. And this is the thing that I think, like, for somebody that talks about boxing to other people, because I do consider myself to be an advocate for the sport of boxing, because I love the sport of boxing. Huge fan of boxing, and I spend a lot of my time on it. I want people to enjoy the sport of boxing, because shoot, man, I want to be able to go out and hang out with people and talk about boxing like other people have the opportunity to talk about basketball or baseball or their things, But when I go out, and I'm sure you guys know, have the same issue. If you go out in the United States and you're a big boxing fan, 99 out of 100 times you're going to be talking to somebody that doesn't know anything about it, doesn't know doesn't understand what the belts mean. They don't understand what weight classes or what weight classes. I was extremely happy that I was talking to somebody that thought that Sergey Kovalev versus Canelo Alvarez happened at 168 pounds. Because I was like, oh man, all that is just reminding him, no, it's 175 pounds. He went up even a little further. And that's when he brought up the performance. He brought that performance enhancing drug thing up. So this is why I'm saying, man, that the WBC ahead of this Deontay Wilder fight and what they're doing is very, very dangerous for the sport of boxing. Very, very dangerous for the sport of boxing. And in the long run, because you have now the WBC, two of the guys that are going to be the main guys that the WBC have representing them, right? The heavyweight champion of the WBC was suspended for the use of performance enhancing drugs for 2 years. Canelo Alvarez, who is the big face of that the WBC wants to have as their face, so much that they call him a franchise champion. They literally changed the rules and increased the levels that are admissible for performance enhancing drugs. You have Tyson Fury walking into the ring where not me, but casual observers come up to me and say, nah, that didn't look right. That didn't look like the same guy. It's like it didn't look like the same guy. When he connected, that's not the same punch that it was last time. The danger for that in boxing is that it becomes the WWE. Is that it's getting to the point where performance enhancing drugs, or the tolerance of performance enhancing drugs, is so widespread, and it is becoming so obvious. Now, I'm not saying that that's the case with Tyson Fury. I don't know if that's the case with Tyson Fury or not. Right? I'm sure Tyson Fury's tests are going to come back clean. He's obviously very sensitive about the issue, because there was reports out there that he wouldn't even take a bottle of water from somebody because he was afraid that if they gave him something, that they were going to taint his water and then he would test positive. Right? So he's concerned about testing positive for performance enhancing drugs and what they could do to him. So, unless the guy's actually proven to have that happen to him, hey man, it didn't happen. He didn't test positive. But here's the thing, and this is the danger for people that are actually looking at this. When the WBC raised the Combuterol level, and you know what Combuterol does, Combuterol burns fat and builds muscle. It burns fat and builds muscle. That's the role of it. And you now have acceptable levels of Combuterol to be in your system. And you take that in conjunction with a delivery system, basically called, microdosing, where you just give them a little bit at a time to make sure that half-life, that you stay as close to that level, to that acceptable level as possible. And if you go over it, you're only going to go over it for like a half an hour period of time or an hour period of time. And then where you're just in the bathroom or they just can't find you. And all you have to do after you do it is just be away and not have somebody find you for an hour. Where the VADA can't find you for an hour. You have a situation with Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., where Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. just ran away from the testing agents. Just ran away from them. So it's just a really dangerous time, man. It's dangerous for fighters. It's dangerous for the reputation of boxing. And also, man, it's just a bad thing to sit and listen to two people that one is a big MMA fan and she's obviously a very big MMA fan because she can name MMA fans. Also a big basically a lifetime boxing fan that both all see it like, man, you're driving away. You're going to wind up, you're just making a joke of the sport. What happened with Dillian White and Oscar Rivas over there in the UK, where he tests positive for Dianabol. You don't even know that he tested positive for Dianabol unless a journalist has an inside source and they break the news. And even then, he doesn't get punished. He gets a fight pushed back and he's back out there doing his thing. It's just, it's a shame, man. And to have those guys have that conversation around me was very, very disappointing. But anyway, it is what it is. You let me know what you think in the comment section. With that, I'm out. Peace.